The hidden details of the Aggorat teaser trailer. The weirdest detail about this trailer was not the skills, not the setting, or the weird boss at the end of it. No, the weirdest detail is how GGG is so elusive in what ascendancy this is. In IGN's description of it, this character pertains to as the hero, and on GameSpot description, there's nothing at all. But since it's a melee focused build and we've already had a sneak peek of a concept ascendancies for the Marauder, at least two of them, the only other melee focused ascendancy we have is the Duelist. Compared to their model though, it is a night and day difference. If you've read wuxia novels, the outfit and the bow staff combat would remind one of martial artists of China, which could allude to an Eastern inspired place in Ray class. Don't sue me. Ziggy even mentioned that this, with the elemental skills of this character, it might also be the Shadow. My name is Ori, and this is Breaking Down the Aggorat teaser at 0.24x speed. The trailer shows a lot of new build skills. Skills that we can't even compare to PoE 1-2, as generally a melee skill is immobile, stationary. These fancy steps do be fancying as melee gets a huge revamp. I'd probably be part of that 10% of melee players after this trailer. But before we dive into the nit and grit details of these skills, let me direct you to a fast detail. Detail 1. The name Aggorat. Unlike the Ngamakanui trailer where there was a reference to its name, the name Aggorat is not mentioned at all in PoE. Check the lore compendium, the wiki, tried Google, almost lost hope. Until I read about Aziri, the last queen of the Val civilization, who the hero references after seeing her statues. The Val civilization might be inspired by the Aztecs, Inca, or even Mayan culture, as a culture where human sacrifices were an integral part of their religious beliefs would fit quite well with the theme of Path of Exile's dark and gritty atmosphere, which is why I have a theory of the Aggorat's origin. Temple pyramids were prominent in their culture, which usually housed not a sharp tip but a flat top. Another term for this architecture was a ziggurat. With Aziri's well-known vanity, she might have named these structures after herself. Hence, the combination ziggurat and Aziri would name to an Aggorat. Detail 2. The skills. Melee movement skill. I've already mentioned how movement is a core part of these skills, which is why this pure melee moving attack skill is pretty cool, showing us a melee future where skills are mobile. What sucks though is how this skill locks up the character up in an animation. It lasts around 2 to 3 seconds, but at least there's movement. The animation is fantastic too. I like how his hair does not clip at all and trails behind his movement. He actually marks an enemy with this skill too. I'll dive more into this later, but this allows him to use a lightning movement skill. The lightning movement skill. Now, this skill may seem like just a movement skill, but it's pretty deep. It has 3 states in its animation. One where he uses it with the enemy in its close proximity, it's just a bang. One where the skill is distant, he winds up, then flashes like lightning and reappears with a bang, and a short hop version. Do note that he doesn't need a charge orb circling around him to cast this, but just the mark. After casting it, the hero gains the charge orb, which is lost upon casting his next skill, a lightning AoE that marks a lot of enemies. It has an incredible range, and it's hot enough to leave a sizzling effect on the ground. We also got to see an ice skill with a short backflip backward. This is an incredibly defensive skill as it might inflict chill along moving the exile out of the way of enemy skills. With how the charge orbs are generated with these skills, I wonder if we are seeing a new support gem for melee skills. Empowering the next skill you have and sharing synergy with the lightning skill to have a sure way to mark enemies. Now it's time to imitate Aang and be the avatar as we complete 3 of the 4 elements with this wind skill. It seems like a cone-like ability with its outer point having the chance to stun, as only the distant enemies were stunned rather than the near ones. Chance to stun because it takes a few thwacks before the big guy gets stunned. Now for the Detail 3, the enemies. The enemies in this trailer come in all sorts of sizes. small gremlins to medium size, large towering giants, mages with a big stomach. With the irregular number of limbs these humanoids have, is the Edziri theory correct? It's pretty sad how not even the children were spared from becoming this vile abomination. Which, GGG, is this the syntax for this faction of enemies, abominations, as body modifications stem from a historic event rather than the ongoing corruption. For their skills, there are only a few notable things as the Exile obliterates them in a fast fashion. 011, this guy wields 2 clubs and normal attacks, which for some reason leads him to be locked in place, so he misses the Agile Exile. 023, the mage summons fungus that blends into the environment, turning them into traps. These explode shortly after. Like before, 023, this big guy locks into an attack and misses the Agile Exile. These 2 occurrences suggest that these enemies might hit slow but powerful attacks. There's also a slight camera shake after this guy hits the ground. In 027, we can see actually how the mage spawns these fungus traps. Which leads us to detail number 4, the boss. There's not much to talk about the boss. Rather, the cinematic boss wind-up really adds flair to the presentation of Path of Exile. What's cool too is how these build-up can work as a gameplay mechanic, where exiles can intuitively come to know what the boss's abilities are. We can see that when she smacked her stomach, the force of the blow hints at her strength. And with the warhammer she takes out, she hits hard. We don't have to be told, just using our gaming senses, we figured that out. Now for some speculations. I think like Talkative Try said in their predictions video with Dreamcore, there will be a massive change in the passive tree. We can see on the 2 teaser trailers, the usage of skills of various different elements would break our current 1-2 primary damage skill-based builds. If we would try to build a build with various types of damage, imagine crit lightning and skilling ignite damage, exiles would just be left too thin of points. This is too constraining. That's why GGG can approach this by 1, massively increasing the passive tree with tons of new nodes so that travel between them would be lesser, just like Talkative Try's suggestion, or 2, damage by type weapons. What if the passive skill tree has nodes that increase them in a general manner? Would we see a less intimidating passive skill tree? We know that we won't be getting a 3D skill tree after all, but the idea has been thrown around in Exilecon 2019 before.
So you are saying that you are going to make some sort of significant change to the tree in the future, or no?
It's a constant discussion at the moment.
Okay.
We honestly don't exactly know what we're doing, but there certainly needs to be tree changes. There have been some pretty radical ideas suggested so far. We're probably not making it 3-dimensional.
Okay, a 3-dimensional tree.
We'll probably get an answer to this conundrum at Exilecon. With that, thanks for watching this breakdown. Exilecon is just a few days now and my hype is getting through the roof. If you'd like to discuss anything in the video, feel free to comment down below. Thanks for watching and see you in Exilecon.